Today, I'm going to show you how to create an API with Node.js.
Welcome everybody on this course about Node.js, and today I'm going to introduce you to this famous framework that is used to create API and to execute operation inside file system, such as reading, deleting, modifying files, etc., etc. And yeah, this course pretends to help you to start with Node.js. We are not going to go very deep inside of it, but you will be able to create your first API, create your first endpoints, and create all the operation that most of the API need today to work. So let's go first by downloading Node.js. So you go on nodejs.org and you download the LTS version of Node.js. So it will be installed on your computer and it will be able to provide operations. Do not download the current one because it's always the beta, it's always improving and stuff, and it's stable but not as stable for production than the LTS version. In order to follow this course, you will also need a code editor, so I'm going to use Visual Studio Code in here. And also, I'm going to use Postman, a software that will help me to request my API, because an API is a program constantly running on a server and answering calls like a normal phone conversation. There's a caller and there's somebody that answers. This is the goal of an API, is to answer, provide data, collecting data, or give answer and create operations, etc., etc. So once you've downloaded Node.js, when you click on it, you see you can download it. I don't need to download it. You open VS Code, all right? And you also open Postman, all right? So once it's done, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open my terminal by clicking terminal in here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to look where I am. So I got a special folder for the project. And what I'm going to do in here is that creating a first Node API course folder, all right? And then I'm going to enter in it, and I'm going to open Visual Studio Code again, this time inside my folder. So what I can do is rearrange my windows, and there we go. So what we're gonna use now, you got Node install. You can check the version and check if Node has been installed. So I'm going to type node -v, and here we see that I got an answer. If you don't get the answer, it means that Node hasn't been installed and you should get back on the first step. If you got problem, you can look on Stack Overflow for it. All right? So what we're gonna do, we are going to use what we call npm. So npm, it means Node Package Manager. Okay, and when I type npm and type enter, we see here that I got many scripts that I can use to operate, to trigger operations. And what we want to do first is to create what we call a package manager. And this package manager, package.json with the package manager. This package.json file is going to be a file that will record all of our libraries that we are going to use inside the project. Because Node.js is not enough to perform all the action we want to do. We have to use more than Node.js, and especially Express. Express, it's a library on top of Node.js that will help us to write less code and create operation faster than Node.js itself. All right? So what we want to do, we want first to create a package.json. So I'm going to type init, and actually we can type npm init, and here it's asking me what is the name of your package.json. So I'm going to type the project, actually, npm node API course. The version I don't need, the description no, the endpoint, it's going to be the file that is going to launch the program. Because an API is supposed to run constantly. It's like the phone. If your house as a cable that goes everywhere in the world, it's because you want that people can phone you anytime. So it's the same as an API. An API is constantly running. So I need this file in here, app.js, that we are going to write just after. Then the test command, I don't need it. I have no Git repository. I don't care about keywords, and I'm going to put author as Guillaume Durand. Put your name or GitHub name in here. License, there we go. And I type enter. And what do I got in here? I got a first file called package.json. So I'm going to right click on it, left click actually. And there we go. We've got our package.json. And in here, there will be all the DNA of your project, okay? It means that when you are going to move all those files to your server, it's going to install all the libraries that you will have in here. And for now, we have no libraries. So we need to install libraries because it doesn't do anything. But first, we have to create this app.js file, as you see here. So I'm going to tap app.js file. And what I can do, if you did JavaScript before, we can create a first console log with the word hello world and trigger this file because we've got Node.js installed already on our computer. So what I can do is to type in my terminal node, and in here I got app.js, and I'm at the root of the folder. If you are not, you should enter inside your folder to trigger this. And if I type enter, there we go. We've got an hello world message, which is here. And if I change my message and I type again node app.js, we see that my message changed. But here, there is no server. It doesn't do anything. We want to make it run all the time, and we'll be able, because here, what I do when I type node app.js is that I'm firing once, only one time. I say to Node, execute this file. But what we want to have is just not one shot. We want that we shot every time there is a request or something else. All right? For instance, here with Node, we could say, create a file for me. All right? But we want to create an API. So it has to be available all the time. So what we need to do, we need to install Express. All right, Express is going to be the first root of your API. We are going to install also 3 other libraries. One called Body Parser. Body Parser, it will be a tool that will help us to read everything that will be sent to the API. So for instance, a JSON file, a text message, an image, a PDF, etc., etc. We would need this library called Body Parser. Also, we need CORS. CORS, crossover domain message, will be used if you have front-end requests, for instance, because there are securities inside Google Chrome, for instance, that stops some requests that doesn't allow you to do everything. All right? I pass really fast on the explanation because this is not really the point. But yes, so CORS, and the last one is going to be Nodemon. And Nodemon, it's just a library that will help us to develop faster. Because as you see, every time I've launched my node app.js, the execution didn't stop, it didn't continue. Okay, with Nodemon, it will restart automatically my server. So this is what I want. So Express, Body Parser, CORS, Nodemon, and I type enter. And I got a message that says that I've added 176 packages, audited some of them, etc., etc. And what appears in my folder, a package log.json, which is a file to record and remember all the versions, etc., etc., which is useless, we will never use it, but also a node module folder. And if I open it, it's a very, very big folder containing many other folders. And all those libraries will be used to make our program running. All right. So yes, so now if I get back in package.json, we see that as dependencies is actually my libraries, I got body parser, course, express, and node-daemon. All right. So remember when I type node.app.js, the execution is done, and then my terminal indicates me that now the execution is done. I stop and I give you again the power. So what we want to do, we want to use node-daemon to be executable all the time for the server being constantly running. Okay, so here what I'm going to do on my scripts, I'm going to create a new script called dev. And in dev, I'm going to type node-daemon app.js. But I'm also going to do a start script, which will be node app.js. And this shortcut, how do I use it? I will type npm run start. And when I type npm run start, it does the same thing at node app.js. But the difference is that my server here console logs some information to me. And it does stop on what I did upper. So let's now create a real server. And by that, I'm going to try to need express. So const express require express, all right, because I'm going to use express later. And I'm going to create an app with the method express just taken over there. So now I've got express. What I want to do is just create a first route. So basically, our app in here will listen to what we call a port. So in your computer, you get ports, or on any other servers, you get ports, and those ports come from 1 to 9,000, etc., etc. So you got to choose a number here, and a lot of them are open. Some of them are used by programs already running. But basically here we are going to use 3,000. All right. And what happens if I type npm run start? Now I don't get the terminal back. It's because my app is already running in here. So you've launched a program that is using the port 3000 and can do operation on it. And to be sure that your app is running, after the 3000 argument, the port as a first argument of the function listen, you can use a callback in here. All right? You can use a callback in here. And now I'm going to create a set interval. And every second, I want to console log in my terminal that the app is running. So I'm going to type console log I am running. Okay? Actually, I'm going to type server is currently running every 1000 milliseconds, so every second. But here we see that nothing is console log. It's because there is no watcher on changes. This is why in development we are going to use node-daemon. So I'm not going to use npm run start, I'm going to use npm run dev. And every time I'm going to change something, it's going to restart again. So I'm going to type npm run dev. And look at that. Every second, so I made a mistake in here, currently running. We missed the T. We see that the message is changing. And if I change here, it's saved, restarting due to changes. And there we go. My server is running and watching for stuff to happen. All right? So I'm going to remove this, and what I could do is that const port and say that now my port will be here, this variable, because we are in a JavaScript environment, so I can use variables. And I could say console log server launched on, and I could say this, all right? And if I type npm run dev, we didn't see it. There we go, on port 3000. All right, very cool. Very, very cool. What we see here is that we have a server running on port 3000. Fine, but how do I reach it? How do I reach the server? I reach the server with Postman or any URL where this server would be. But where exactly is this server? Actually, right now it's running on my computer. So the address of the port is actually http://localhost 2 points and the port. And there we go. We see here that I can access on this. So if I click on it, okay, and I open it in here, I've got an error, cannot get slash. And slash, it's just the base of the application. So maybe I could close this. And there we go. There is no root. Okay, there is no root in here. So how do we create roots? Roots are just entrance of your API. So what we can do to create a root, we can type app.get. I'm going to stop the server. App dot, and with app dot, I can access method. As you saw, I accessed the listen method up there. But in HTTP methods, and if you don't know what are HTTP methods, you can type what are HTTP methods. We see that all the request methods are used to give information to the receiver. So here our receiver, it's our API, on what he wants to do. So it's some kind of pre-information on, do you want to post something? Do you want to get something? Do you want to put something, patch it, or delete? And what we can do here is to say we want to get something. Okay, I want to get something from you. So I want to get something from the API. And where is the entrance of your API? The main one is slash. And just like listen, what we can do is execute a function just after. So let's say that we are going to console log somebody called root slash. Okay. Now we know that on this root, we've got a console log that has been triggered. So I'm going to npm run dev, but nothing happens. It's simple. It's because nobody called that root. And what you can do at first is to call again our main root, which is here. And if I type enter, we see that my browser doesn't find anything. But in here, I see that somebody called root. Why my browser doesn't find anything? It's because we didn't send a response. And with Node.js, here in your function, actually here it's a function. It's just, I'm using the new notation. There are two parameters that you can catch. The first one, it's the request. Request, it's a big object where you get tons of information on who's calling. Here we will get the information that I'm calling from Chrome with objects, etc. Everything that I'm going to send. The request, it's the number of the phone caller and all the information with that. His name, stuff, what is he saying at first, etc. etc. And the second, it's res. Res, it's what we call response. It's the same, it's an object full of stuff that helps you to respond what you want to respond. And here, let's say that we want to send a message. So I'm going to use res, and then in here we see that my auto-completion show me a lot of options. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to send. And what I'm going to send an hello world. All right. So now if I get back again and I type enter, I got an hello world message. So I've created a route, a main route, that is just sending to me a message. I can access this API from localhost 3000, but I can also access APIs from Postman. So Postman is a software that helps me to make requests, get answers, but also send, for instance, JavaScript objects such as JSONs. And because here I cannot send any JSON, all right? I mean, I could, but here as a normal request for developers, I could not send it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to send my first request, and in here we see that I got the method that I used. So here I use a get method. So I'm going to call 3000, and I will also get the hello world that I get in here. All right. But with Postman, what I can do is I could add parameters such as authorization. So maybe some routes are locked if you don't get a special code, if you don't get a token, if you don't get authorization headers, you could not access from root. So here you could provide a type of authorization such API key, bearer token, etc., etc. You could put more headers. Sometimes you need headers, and you could also put a body. And a body, of course, it could be a JSON object. Okay, so what we're going to do at first, we are going to use, actually I'm going to do up there, we are going to use body parser because we want to receive JSON and we want to receive many type of objects of anything. So what I'm going to do is type body parser and require body parser, okay, and I'm going to use also course. So const course is equal to require course, and there we go. And we got to tell the application to use it. So I'm going to type use body parser. But body parser is a library with tons of methods, and I'm going to use the JSON one. So it means every time you will have a JSON, I want to be able to read it. If you don't put that, you won't be able to read your JSON. I'm going to use also another method, okay, is called URL encoded. So in here, I'm going to use the option extended true in an object. We will see that later. And I'm going to use course if I get a request from a front end. All right. That's good. That's really good. So remember, we are on a JavaScript environment. So basically, here I could say that up there, I could say that my message is this and put my variable in here. So if I type this again, we see that I still got hello world. All right. So what I could do is hello world from message variable. And as long as my API is running and my data will be saved in here, I will get the message. So if I send it, hello world from message variable. All right. Of course, if I stop my server and I try to access again localhost, I would have an error and say there is no server running. So there is no message also because this constant is supposed to be in my memory once my server is launched. So when we get a call, we can send a message, but we can send also status. And the status are really, really important. as you see on your network. And if I call this, I've got a call in here, and I've got a column called status, and I got a 200 here. The status code, so we will tap status codes, there we go. We've got tons of status codes such as 404, 403, etc., etc. If you aim to be a good backend developer, you're supposed to use status all the time. It helps actually your receiver, the person who's calling you, or the server who's calling you, to understand if it succeeds or not. So you see, now I put send status, the method send status with 200. What's happening is that my screen is black because Chrome understood that the request worked. All right. So this is the main route. But let's say that I want to create a new route and I would like to post, let's say, a user. So I would like to save a user in here. Okay. And actually, this user is an empty variable. And I would say I would use post, and as always, I want to create a new user. Okay, all right. I still have and I always have the rec and res object that I'm going to use. Okay, and what I want to do is that here on my body, I'm going to use a row and send a JSON. And this JSON object will be simply username Guillaume. All right, let's say that I want to send this. So what I'm going to say is that I'm going to send a status of 200 because remember, if you don't send a response, your server will be bugging, running constantly. I want to post to this new user. So be careful, always use the good method, otherwise you would think that you have no good endpoint, but sometimes and often for new developers, it's the method that you choose that was wrong. So I'm going to post. I'm going to post to this /new user, this new route. Okay. So I'm going to post, and what I got a OK. All right, that's good. But where is my JSON object? Where is it? Actually, it's in my request. So what I'm going to do in here is that I'm going to clean a bit my terminal. I'm going to console log my request and to see how does it look. And remember here, I've attached my body. So I'm going to send again the request. And I've got this big object. And if I look closely, I got body with what I send. And this is the data I send in here. So this big object has tons of options that you can use. It depends on what you want to do. But me, I'm going to console log rec.body. All right. So I'm going to send again. And there we go. I got my username, which is amazing. But what I can do with that now? What I want to do, I would like to say user. Okay, user is equal to rec.body. All right, and what I want to send, I want to send back the user. So I'm going to type res.json because here I'm sending a JSON, and I'm going to send user because I really want to know if user has been fulfilled by my body. All right. So I'm going to send my user Guillaume, and normally here I'm supposed to have user Guillaume send. And now my variable up there is user Guillaume. All right. So that is an example. Okay. Let's get a new one. Let's say that we want to get a list of user. Okay, rec res. Okay, and every time I'm going to send this list of users. So up there, I still don't get my users, all right? But let's say that my user would be an array of users in here, all right? So I want to get all the users. And of course, when you do that, everybody who's will request will receive the user. So be safe not putting, here it's an opening endpoint. We'll see later how to ask first for a code to get the endpoint. So I'm going to type users, and actually I don't need a body now. And what I will get is an error because there is no post on user. It's a get. So I'm going to get back in here and type get. And there we go. I got my 2 users. All right. I can provide data this way. But let's say that now I want to add a user, and I'm going to remove this one. I'm actually going to copy paste and put it up there. I'm going to create an endpoint called add user. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have a user. Okay, so I'm going to remove this one up there. And I'm going to create actually a new user variable in here, which will be rec.body. And I would say that I would like to push this new user. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to type add user, and I'm going to go on my body, and I'm going to send a new user like this, which will be Albert, and which will be 28 years old. And normally in my list I will get a new user, so I'm going to post, all right, add user, and there we go. I got a new user on my list. Okay, you see here I added a new user there. But here on my normal variable, you see that nothing changed. Of course, it's locally that we did this. It's not already recorded. So that's the thing. We've got Albert in our list. But if I send again, we see that we got Albert again, to Albert, etc., etc. We are in a JavaScript environment, and we can, of course, easily use the power of JavaScript, okay, to check if first we send a user, because here I could say bro true, for instance. I could say data that will be not correlated to other models. And this is really important to respect models, because we don't want to send nothing like this, nothing true, all right? Otherwise, we will have objects in our user list that are not user. We don't want to do this. So what we can do, of course, is to use JavaScript to check. So basically, we are going to start again. And here we are going to do not an add user endpoint, but a user's new endpoint. Because later, what we're going to do, we're going to do also delete endpoint, etc., etc. Patch. So here I'm going to delete users. Here I'm going to patch, etc., etc. This is how we will do later. But here we get an endpoint called users new. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to destructure, okay, my rec.body. And here I'm going to say username. And if there is no username, okay, what we will do, we will send a special status So here I get an error. Restart from home depot. No. We will send a status called 400, for instance, an error status. It's not necessarily the good one. Okay? But if there is one, we will do all the rest. We will see after. Okay? So here, if we don't send a username, it's not gonna work. It's going to stop in here. But if there is a username, it will continue. And what we want to do, we want to check on our list if the username exists or not. So I'm going to type users. So for now, I'm going to down this. Yes. Users. So our list of users, which is up there. I'm going to try to find a username that is actually the same as the one. And here we will get actually, sorry, an array empty. Sorry, not an array, because it's not a filter. We will have undefined, or we will have an object with username Albert already exists. Okay? What we want an undefined. So if there is no found, so found, it means if there is an undefined, it means that there is no user. So I'm going to add it. So I'm going to use a push, okay, my rec.body. So here, my rec.body. And I'm going to return a res.json. I'm going to return my list of users. Okay. Otherwise, I would answer with a statue 409 and send user already exists. So what I did here, I've created an endpoint, and this endpoint is checking if there is a username. If there is not, I'm going to stop the process and sending a response. If there is a username, I'm going to look if this username exists or not in the user list. If it doesn't exist, I'm stopping it and I return a JSON with the users. And if it's found, I'm going to answer with a status 409. Here, what we're going to try first is to send an empty object to our new endpoint called users new. And we're going to see what is going to be answered. And what we see is that we got an empty object, and the empty object has been added. It is mainly because I didn't return my response. All right. So if I try again, I get an error. It's send status. Sorry. All right. So I'm going to try again. And there we go. Bad request. It stopped here because there is no username. So what I want to do is that username, and I want to add Albert. And if I click on send, Albert has been added. We are missing the age, but it's okay. We could check also the age, okay, for instance. All right, so if I start again, bad request because I don't get any age. So down here, I'm going to put age 28. I'm going to send again, and there we go, we got Albert because Albert wasn't in the list before. All right, I'm going to remove this send status, and I'm going to start again, and I'm going to call for Albert. Albert has been added, and if I try again, I get a message that tells me user already exists. All right, so here we have created our account. Sorry, we have created our username. We have added our username to the list, which is really cool. But let's say, for instance, let me show you another library that you can use, and this library is called UUID. And UUID, it's a library that helps you to provide an ID to your users, because up there we've got users, okay, but to find them we would like to add some IDs to them, and these IDs has to be really simple, because if I put here Guillaume, maybe one day I will have another Guillaume, and that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is to add a very specific ID, unique ID, and to generate those unique IDs we use UUID. All right, so here basically I'm going to also add an ID to Aurelia. This is basic idea that I've created before the course in order to get faster. And to create them, I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to install UUID that we got in here. And this is really interesting because UUID npm run dev, all right, there we go. This is really interesting because with UUID, we are going to add our user in here, but what we want to do is to provide this new UUID. So up there, I'm going to come back and use v4.uuv4, okay, require and UUID. All right. And here you got the npm page with all the installation. And what we're going to use is this UUID v4 method that will help me to add a UUID to my user. So here I destructure my object and I'm going to put an ID, a UUID. There we go. All right. And let's say after that we want to console log a new user has been added, and let's say that we're gonna put new user in here, and new user would be a variable that we are going to use in here. So what I can do is new user, there we go. So I'm going to add Albert again, and if I see here that there is an idea, I can get back, and here I don't see the new user, but what I can do is check the ID. And here, as you see, the ID begins by CF0. But if I start again, God, sorry, made a mistake. New user dot ID in here. All right, if I type send, there we go. We got a new ID because every time you are going to add a new one, it's going to create a new ID. So UUID is very useful for that. All right, but now it's really cool to have this variable, but Albert is not saved all the time. And what is amazing is that with Node.js you can use the file system, and the file system allows you to write content, write files, delete files, etc., etc. So basically, we are going to use Node.js to create a database. Okay, we would like to create a database of users. So here I'm going to go on my tree file and create a users.json file, guys. And here we are going to use the user that we had before here. All right. And we are going to put data, and here I'm going to check all of this. Yes, and create this database in here. And I'm going to save, and there we go. All right, so I got my JSON object in here, and actually it's not supposed to be an object like this. Sorry, it's supposed to be an array. And there we go. So I got my users.json file, and let's say that now users, all right, it's going to be the file that I'm requiring now. Users require users.json. And what I can do is that if I want to see directly in my terminal, if I can read it, I can type console log users. And here in my terminal, we see that we can read the file. But what I want to do is to use my FS, my file system. And FS helps me to access to all the methods that I can have to use my file system. So let's say that we want to create, we get back in here and we are going to create, here I'm going to close this, okay? I'm going to get back down and we want to read all the users. Remember, here if I go here and I put users./get, I got my JSON file reading, okay? And actually, what we can do also is to write this file. We want to write this file, and we cannot use the posts that we added in here because here it's going not to work. We have to read the file, write it, and save it again. It means that here we want to add Albert as we did before. So in order to do so, we are going to write again our endpoint. And to start, we are going to say raw data is going to be the file system, and we are going to use a method called read file synchronous, and we are going to use users. Okay, it's going to read the file for us, and what I can do is, of course, JSON this raw data. All right, so when I get back in here, I'm going to get again my user post, and here we see that I got an error. It's because this JSON file send again as this raw data is actually a JSON file that we want to send. And what we have to do is to create again a new variable which will be a JSON parse. We want to parse the JSON and understand the data. So JSON parse raw data. All right. And we're going to try again to send our data and see, there we go, that it still doesn't work. All right, it still doesn't work. And this is normal. This is absolutely normal because for many reasons, what we want to do is that here users is already required up there, but we don't require this reading. We just need to go catch the file with this pass. So when I'm going to type this, there we go. We've got our file. We just read it. Okay. Here we want a file. We don't want a require. Okay. We want directly the pass of the file. So that's cool, but I want to access the data. So easy. Users will be users data. Okay. Data. Okay. So here I got my data. And like we did before, we are going to use again our function up there. So I'm going to copy paste all of this and get back down here. But here we don't want to return the JSON at the end. Of course, we want to here get back in here. And now we are still doing the same operation, and we push our user inside, okay, inside the instance of the JSON file. So we've got the array in here, and we want to push Albert, but we want also to save it. So once our new user has been pushed, just before our response, and actually what we're going to do here is send a status of 200. Before this, we will write again the data. So what we're going to do, we are going to type let data and json.stringify, because we already transformed actually our data here, we passed our data here. We're going to write again data, but with what? With users. Because here we made a copy of this data in here, okay, up there. And we want to write again the file with Albert inside. So what I did here, I'm going to use again fs, and now we're going to say we want to write the file. And what file we want to write? We want to write, of course, users.json. So this file will be replaced by the new file with Albert. And what is the content? The content is data. Of course, I could make it faster in here, but I do it for you to understand. All right. So first, we check if there is username and age, of course. Oh, sorry. First, we read the raw data. We check if there is a username. Then we do this, what we did before. We create an idea and we add Albert to our file. All right. So let's try to do it now. Remember, our user file looks like this, and I'm going to add a new user, and this new user is Albert. And I'm going to type send, and I got a OK response. And if I go to user, we see that my file has changed. There is no space anymore. When I save here, we see that now I've got Albert as a JSON file. And if I stop my server, I'm not anymore into this variable system, okay? Remember before, when I stop the server, I can add again Albert, but now I got a JSON file, so my data is saved. And if I run again my server and I try to add Albert, I've got an error. All right, I've got an error because Albert is already in the list. Understand? So this is cool, but I wish we could keep track on every errors and every time everybody is trying to do something. And here what I can use is Morgan. Okay, Morgan, it's a new library that helps us to provide information. Okay, we know that Node.js can write files. So why couldn't we have a file that says somebody tried to add Albert, it didn't work, it passed by a get method, and we launched 400, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stop my server and type npm install Morgan. All right, and I'm going to go up there and I'm going to add Morgan in here, require Morgan. All right, and I'm going also to use what we call the access stream. And the access stream, I'm going to copy paste this line. Actually, I'm going to write it again. This access log will be the file that will record every action made on the API. This is really useful. So down here, I'm going to create a access log, okay, and it will be a method with fs, the file system, like always. create write stream, and inside in here what I can do is use pass. So pass also, I have to try const pass. Pass helps you to understand where you are on the current machine. So here I'm going to type pass join because I want to join the current folder. So pass.join dir name is just writing this, but it's really important because if you move it to another place, it will understand that I'm on another place. Okay, it will simply do that. All right. So pass dir name, and here I'm going to type access.log. So a file called access will be written, and I want to add a specification of Morgan, which is flag A. That's right. Once I've done this, I want to know what is it going to write. And we have a format here, which is called combine. It will write every line, every time there will be an action, it will write this line for us. So you recognize the res, the status, the user agent, the remote user, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say, so I'm going to put that upper. I don't know why I came here. I'm going to say app.use Morgan. All right. And Morgan, I will use the combine format. Of course, if you want to use common, dev, or create your own format, you could use that. So I'm going to use combine, and I'm going to say write this combine to my access log file. All right. So I can npm run dev again, and here I got an error which says the property access log is invalid. All right. So I'm going to check why I got this error, and I get back in here. Oh, maybe because oh, I understand. I missed that. It was inside my pass. All right. And yeah, my server already started again, and I got my access log file, which is here and empty. And if I make a request to add Albert, for instance, you see a new line happen. And if I do it again, a new line happen, etc., etc. And here we see that, let's say there is a secret route that you want to create. So for instance, let's say that there is a route like secret, okay, and rec res, okay, and we're gonna send a message called this route is secret. If you access to it, if you access here, you are allowed to see this message. Okay, let's say that when I type on get this secret route, here I see that I am allowed to see this message, but actually not, because I didn't provide anything. All right, I didn't provide anything. So let's say that we have a key. So I'm going to create a key, okay, and this key will be my secret key. And let's say that here, like we did with username, we have a key provided, and actually we could say an API key, okay, rec.body.key. And if there is no key, no API key, we would do like we did before. You remember in here we would say a status, okay, we would send a status of 400, okay. Now we've got this route that is locked, okay, and if I said bad request, okay? For now, if I put API key in here, I could say any key, okay? Here, we don't check the key yet. So let's say that if API key is different from key, okay, I got to get my secret key. And if I don't put the secret key, which is exactly this one, there we go. I got my secret key. This is really nice. But if you do many routes, you don't want to copy paste. You don't want to copy paste this code all the time. What you can do is to create what we call a middleware. And this middleware, all right, this middleware will help you to check every time the authentication. So let's create a new folder and let's talk about architecture of a project. You can have many middleware. So I'm going to create a new file called auth.js, and it's going to be just a regular check. And this auth.js would be actually a file with a function called check. All right. And I'm going to export, so I'm going to type module exports, this check function. All right, as an object. And which would be cool is that here I would have my secret key. And actually here it's a string, but it's supposed to be a process.env. I'm going to show you later that you can create another file here, okay, which will contain your secret key and will be not accessed on code. So let's say that here I got my const key. Okay. Just after that, I'm going to show you that. And I will have, if I get down to here, to my function. So here, check will be a function triggered as a middleware. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove all of this and I'm going to import up there. I'm going to import my function from middleware. And if I type here, I got my check function. How do I use this function? So here I'm going to console log check has been called. All right. So here I go down and I put my function check just after the root and before the execution. And if I get back in here and I call secret, all right, we see that check has been called. But nothing happens. It's because here check didn't allow to continue the operation. What I need to do here is to use res and another function called next. And next is a function that says, okay, I've done my work, you can pass to the next function, and the next function is here. This is how a middleware is working, and this is why it exists. It exists to first do operation before executing the root. And if the operation is not working, it will lock the root. So I'm going to try again. And there we go. This is my secret root, and check has been called. So what we can do now is to do our check in here we did before. So remember, we're going to type it again. rec.body. If no API key or API key is different from key, res send a 400. Okay, otherwise done. All right. So now I got my root with my check that I could put on any root I want. It would do all the time the same. So what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to type my secret key or 2, for instance. And when I type bad request, okay, bad request. But if I put again my secret key and I type, there we go. My authentication worked. So now I don't want to have this key in here. What I would like to have is a secret file that is not committed to the project. And so I'm going to type here, actually API key is equal my secret key on an environment file. This file is hidden. You cannot see it and stuff. Here, it's a string that you can see and get. So that's the problem. And what I need to do is to install .env. So .env, there we go. Here, .env helps me to get the file. And here, what I need to do is that on my application, I have to require .env when I start my server. So I'm going to come back in here and require .env.config, and actually also here just before my file. And here, instead of putting that here, I'm going to type process.env.api key. And if I start again, if I start again my server npm run dev, there we go, it is working and there is no API key appearing in here, so I reduce the danger. All right. Okay, we've done a lot. I would like introduce to you crons. Crons, it's operation that you can schedule. Now we saw middlewares. So let's say that every day we would like to make like a backup of this file and put it into a folder, all right, and save every day our database in case this file would be committed with fake data, etc., etc. So what we're gonna do is that we are going to install Node schedule, all right, Node schedule, and Node schedule is a library that helps you to schedule operations. So I'm going to stop in here, npm install Node schedule, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to type import of Node schedule in there, and there we go. We've got schedule imported. So I'm going to run again the server, and there we go. Okay. Let's say that you want to schedule a job. So down there, we see that we got an option to schedule a job. So we say at the time of the day, of the second, of the hour, etc., we want to schedule a job. And let's say that we are going to start, okay? We are going to schedule a new job. Actually, I'm going to copy paste, and I'm going to say that every second I would say job scheduled. All right, and it's exactly like on here the console log that we had before with the set interval. So we see that we just have to declare it to schedule our job. Okay, that's amazing. But let's say that we want, I'm going to stop the server, save users every day. Okay, let's say that we want to save every day, make a backup of users. So what we're going to do first is to use again file system, and we want to say copy file. All right, and we want to copy file users. So I'm going to type here users. All right, and what I want to do is to copy paste in a folder called backups users.json. And if there is an error, because we got a callback just after this, we've got a callback error, if error, okay, throw new error, actually here, actually we can put through error directly, and we want to console log backup error users.json. Oh, sorry, backup, because if there is an error, it will be was copied to backups. Okay. And if I launch again, all right, we've got already an error because there is no such file or directories. So basically what you could do here and say, it would be saying that if there is no backup, create it. So as you see, but here I'm going to create it directly, backup. And what I'm going to do is that, there we go, no such file or directory in users.json. Okay, so here we got an error, starting error, through error, copy file, backups. There we go, every second. Sorry, users.json. It's my bad. And as we see here, every second, okay, our users.json file is being copied directly in here. That's nice, but what we would like to do actually is not to have only one file. We want several files, and let's say that we want to copy paste this every day. So what I'm going to do is in here, I'm going to call my file with a date, okay, and this date would be a new date, and I want to put it at a ISO string, and now we will have several copy all along the day. So I'm going to type npm run dev, and look at that. Every second I got a new copy of my file. It helps me actually, so I'm going to stop this because otherwise it will create so much files. It helps me to keep on track every time I got a new saving to do. So here I could say that I would like to do it every day at 3 on the morning. Okay, 3 on the morning, I want you to create a backup for me. Okay, this is how scheduling is working. You could do many stuff. You could say, you could throw actions, you could create tons of stuff with a scheduling job. Okay, so here you put the dates, you put also the months, the hour, etc., etc. All right, that's it, guys. Actually, what we could see is make an introduction to Json Web Token. And I think I will finish the course on this. So, what we're gonna do in here, in my authentication, I'm going to create a token, a unique token. Let's say that you want to create a token to allow your users to use your application. So they supposed to log with a username or a password, and you in return, you send back a token that only your API can read, and then allow the user to do its stuff. So basically, what we're gonna do is to use Json Web Token. So Json Web Token, here, there we go. It is allowed here to help you to create tokens like this. All right, to create private key, for instance, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install Json Web Token. And what I'm going to do also is in here create a function called actually like this, generate token. Okay, and this function actually, all right, is going to be used with username, because here we got username. All right, and here we are going to return a GWT. So what I have to do first, of course, is to import GWT and Json Web Token. Alors, of course, I didn't say it, but you are on a middleware. So you will see why I created many exports here, an object to export many other function here. It's because we are going to export our function as a middleware that we are going to use on a root later, like we did here with check. So here I'm going to type gwt sign, and I want to sign with username, and I'm going to type secret in here, which is supposed to be a key. You're supposed to create a unique key, but here I put secret for the example. Expires in, and me, I'm going to put, I don't know, second. All right. So now I've got this. I want to create an authenticated token, and this function will be actually the function that will check our token. So this one is going to be to generate my token. Okay. And this one will be the authenticated token. All right. So let's write the two functions. Here I generate it. Here I check my authenticated token. So basically what I'm going to do is that here, remember, we have a rec, res, and next. So I miss function. Here it's just a function that will not be used to check. Here it's just to generate it, but here it's really the middleware to check. So I miss. Here it's supposed to be on a helpers file, but for the course I'm doing this. I've got a rec, and here in my headers I'm supposed to have an authorization, because this token that we will give when people will ask for, this token in here will be stored in our headers, okay, in our cookies actually. And let's say that the token of the person who's gonna ask to access the root will be here, and we will take the second one. Okay, so if there will be no token, or if token will be null, what we want to do is to return a status of 401. All right, of course. Otherwise, we will use gwt to verify your token, because it's the only one to know if the token you send use your username and a secret. We will see just after how does it look. So I'm going to verify the token, and I'm going to verify it, of course, with our secret key. So both of them here, what I can do is to put my secret key, okay, secret, here, secret, on my env, and process.env.secret. There we go. Secret. And here I will have an error, or I will get my user. And if error, of course, return res send status of 403, and we will get the error in our logs, because our logs are still recording what we do. That's the beauty of it. And then rec user is equal to user and next simply, and what I want to do is to console log the user. All right. So now we've got our two functions, generate token and authenticated token. So I come back in here, and what I can do is generate token, authenticated token from both of them. Authenticate token, sorry. Why did I put that? Authenticate token. There we go. Okay. So let's say that now we've got an endpoint called post/login. All right. And this post/login will be open to everybody, so no middleware. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy paste what I have up there. I want to read, right? I want to read if there is a user and if there is one found, etc., etc. Okay, so if there is not found, etc., blah blah blah, we are going to copy paste a bit all of this. So on login, I want to check. Okay, actually, I want to do that before, because if it could be a middleware actually. I did it for the listen, but if there is no username, check. Okay, and if there is no found, if the user that asks for a token is not found, we will send a status up there. Otherwise, we would create a token for him and we would generate the access token. So actually, what is the name again? Generate token. There we go. Generate token of what? Of course, username. Yes, and what we're going to do is that res.json with our token. So I'm going to start again, and let's try this piece of code. So I'm going to post on login, okay, with nothing. Bad request, okay, there is no username. So what I'm going to do is putting here username fake user. Bim, I got an OK, but it's not possible because here I send status off. So I'm going to put 403 forbidden. No, it's sorry, I think it's 401 unauthorized. Okay, let's say that there is no user was found. Console log, no user was found, and actually that's what we should answer. So send with no user was found, and 400. No, actually we're gonna send just this for the moment, just for the send. No user was found because I got no user with fake user. But let's say that I am Albert. There we go. As you see, I've got this token right here. Okay? And let's say that to get the user, I want to authenticate token before getting the user. So basically in here, if I got no token, it will push me away. Okay? We will say you have, let's send, you have no available token. It's supposed to work this way. We're gonna try again. So I've started again my server. So what I need to do first is to log in. And once I'm logged in, I'm going to try to get the user. So I'm going to open a new one in here. Okay, I'm going to open a new one and I'm going to type user/get. All right, and first I'm going to, so here I put a username. It's just for the example. You're supposed to put a password. It's better to. So now I can log in. I got my token in here, and if I go on localhost and I type again, here you have no available token. It's normal. It's because I didn't provide any token. So what I want to do is, of course, in the headers here to put a token. And here it doesn't work because it's not supposed to be in the header. It's supposed to be here in the authorization and bearer token. And here we see that I already got a token for an example, which is not the right one. And here, there we go, we've got an error. Users is not defined. So res JSON, and let's say that is going to be users.json. It was my mistake. So I'm going to type send, and here we've got in the console, we've got the Albert that has been recognized because I used the username of Albert in the token that I was asking in here, and here it didn't recognize, but it was supposed to be the file which is require, let's try again, require in here, and there we go, and I'm going to try again, get, and there we go. And as you see again, Albert has been recognized because I already tried here my authenticate token. Thank you so much for following this course. I've been maybe too fast sometimes, but I will create for you on my GitHub account a repository that I will put on Guillaume Duhan in here. If you like this course, thank you so much. Please come on my GitHub profile, and if you want, start one of my project in here. Otherwise, you can go on my Patreon. All right, my Patreon page, if you're interested in, I try to post when I can in here. All right, and of course, you can follow me also on my TikTok. So I'm going to try to add my TikTok in here. I'm not existing anymore, and accounts verify to continue. All right, verification complete. There we go. You can follow me on TikTok. I'm trying to post as much as I can. Thank you so much for this course. I hope it helped you, and see you soon.